Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Buzzer Beaters. This is episode 45. I am Eddie Aparicio, and this is my co-host Anthony Toine Corral, and we are brought to you by Grumblings Media. You can find us on grumblingsmedia.com. You can also find us on any popular podcast outlets you can think of, such as Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, X, Pandora, Apple, whichever one suits you, you can find us. But go ahead and just type in Gremlings Media. That's probably the easiest way you can find us. You can also probably find us on Buzzer Beaters, but we're competing with a lot of other buzzer beaters that are going on out there in the basketball world. But anyway, we are live here every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. The intent is to go an hour to an hour and a half. I'm going to say an hour to hour and a half now because we have been consistently going over an hour, but our intent is to be less than an hour. But, for this week, we're only going to go ahead and cover the 8 playoff series. Okay, there's 4 in the East and there's 4 in the West. We're going to go ahead and deep dive into each of those, probably talk about 7 to 8, 9 minutes per series. We're going to cover our observations, what we're seeing from a basketball perspective. We're also going to go ahead and talk about some of the fantasy perspective as well, because, a lot of you already know I'm a big fantasy basketball player as well as football, but this is an NBA-specific podcast. We're also dabble in other type of NBA products, such as NCAA and WNBA, but we're primarily an NBA-specific podcast. So, I play FanDuel. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to cover some of that as well on each of the slides. We have 8 slides prepared for everybody here. We're going to delve into it. It's going to be sometimes a little bit of eye chart. Our intent is not to overwhelm you with a lot of information, but we're going to go ahead and talk through it. So without further ado, let's actually, before I get into that, Toine, what's been going on, man? How you been, man?
Not much. First things first, Eddie. I don't know how much over an hour we want to go today. Dub's starting 30 minutes.
That's right, dude.
We're already gonna miss the first quarter. I don't know. I'm gonna be like, my eyes are gonna be like the old Marty Feldman guy, with Young Frankenstein, where my eyes are.
Totally, man. I forgot that guy's name. Holy crap!
Yeah, Marty Feldman, bro. That's his name, And for those that watch Youngstein, if you know what I'm talking about. But in any case, I don't know how much over an hour we want to go, but I've been good. As I mentioned in previous episodes, my oldest daughter's hanging out with us at the house now. She's back home for a little bit, which is exciting for me. But she's a big movie girl. She likes to go to movies. And last night she's like, "Hey, let's go watch this new movie, Sinners, with Michael B. Jordan." And so it was a pretty good little flick. I don't want to give too much away, for those people that haven't seen it, but it's pretty good. It reminds me of a couple of other movies that I've seen in the past. As we get older, every movie storyline starts to grow similar to other movies you've seen in the past. I don't want to. One of them is from Dawn Till Dusk, or is it Dusk Till Dawn?
Dusk Till Dawn, yeah.
Yeah, so it's sort of similar in nature to that movie. It's got a couple of
so it's kind of like, that's that's actually Salma Hayek's, actually when she first became, popular.
Yes, where she does her anaconda dance.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my.
That's where she became popular. Like, who is this woman? Oh my god!
Like, holy crap! Where has she been hiding her?
Bro?
Yeah. So we watched the flick. It was pretty good. I know you were doing some prepping last night. I couldn't quite get back to you, and a couple of other things. But yeah, it was pretty good. Other than that, just keeping busy at work. I know your daughter came down for spring break.
Yeah.
You guys traveled a little bit. How about you?
Well, we went to Ione, which is about an hour and a half away from Pleasanton, where I live, and we went up to go have Easter dinner. Actually, it was not even a dinner. It was actually what do you call between dinner and lunch? Is that dinner? I don't know, man. But that's what we did. We had something a little bit.
In my house, you just call it lunch. Because we
whatever, right? It's whatever time, right? But anyway, So what happened is that it became kind of a combo thing because we had an Easter / engagement party because my niece, my one and only blood niece, I should say, because my sister has a son and a daughter. She got engaged, so we had kind of.
Were you aware of this?
No, I was aware of it, but we just had the engagement party, so we it was a Easter / engagement party. So it was cool. It was about like maybe, 10 of us that kind of got together and, and that's why Amanda, my daughter, flew into town is to do that. But then, unfortunately, because she has finals coming up, she pretty much spent most of her time just studying, really. The only time she had a chance to do anything fun was to kind of do that. She really didn't do anything else but just go to that, and then she flew out, Monday to come back to school. So, but real quick before we get into it, you brought up the Sinners thing. I'm a big horror movie guy, man. I don't know if you.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Man, I am. So something you don't know about me, bro. I have yet to find a movie that really freaks me out. And it's funny is that my sister is exactly the same way, bro, which is weird. And I just found this out recently, not that long ago, right? I mean, within the last 10 years, I found this out that my sister is very similar to me. We don't get kind of scared of this stuff, right? And I don't know if it's because of the weird stuff we've seen in our lives. I don't know, bro, but my wife and my daughter are complete opposites to me. They get freaked out. So like if I were to suggest to go see Sinners, they would laugh in my face, dude. They were like, "You're right. I'm not gonna go see that, right?" And I'm like, "I want to go see it, right?"
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that my brother-in-law, UCLA, Mike, he loves horror movies too. So anytime he comes over here and my wife and daughter are out doing something else or not in the house, we watch horror movies, man, and we can't really find something that really scares us. We've watched a lot of them, bro. And
so I'm with you. So I kind of differentiate, right? So there's two types of scary movies. Let's call them that. There's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre deal where there's just blood and guts everywhere. That stuff doesn't scare me. I don't care for that type of movie, to be honest with you. I'm not grossed out by the blood. It's just like, whatever, man. I don't really care. The movies that do freak me out are anything that's religious based.
Yeah, exactly.
So The Exorcist, things like that. I remember a long time ago. It's corny now, but there was a movie called The Prince of Darkness.
I saw that one. I remember that. We watched
which is a religious movie that kind of freaked me out. I mean, if people watch it now, it's probably gonna be a joke.
It's not that. I watched it and it didn't bother me. The only movies that kind of I would say got in my head, of course, Exorcist. I watched it when I was a little younger, and I think when you watch it when you're younger, it gets in your head, right?
Yeah.
The ones that are based on true stories are the ones that kind of really get in my head. So The Conjuring is actually based on a true story, right? So that one, I don't know if you've seen that one, bro.
I've seen those.
The whole series, even the Annabelle, right? That's based on a true story too, bro. I mean, I'm not everything that they depict in the movie, but just just the story itself. There actually is a possessed doll that they actually keep, because bad things happen if you touch it, right? So and there's another doll called Andy in some museum that is the same exact way, man, and it's a trip, man. So those kind of movies where the spiritual, the demon, the devil, that kind of stuff, that stuff can kind of get in your head, right? So me and my brother-in-law, we were like in search of like the next movie we wanted to watch, and the one that really caught my eye, and I have it on my save list because I have like one of these boxes at my house where I can save a bunch of movies. And I can get everything, bro. I get all this, all this stuff, right? It's kind of one of these dirty boxes, what you call them. You can get anything you want, right? You just kind of pirating.
Better be careful, the FCC gonna come.
Yeah. But anyway, they don't know what I'm doing, right? They don't know my address. Anyway, so the one that I found was called The First Omen. And it's something that just came out in the last couple of years. And that trailer, bro, you got to watch that trailer, dude. That trailer looks legit. So that's the next movie I'm going to watch. And hopefully to find something that'll kind of scare us. But yet I've yet to find one yet, bro. So,
dude, anyway. I remember one of the ones that scared me from a long time ago. You probably watched it too. Was The Serpent and the Rainbow?
I remember. That's a great movie, bro.
That is a freaky movie.
That's a good movie, dude.
The voodoo and the dude. That movie was. You know what I like is when I watch a movie and I don't really know it's supposed to be scary, and that's how I went into that movie. For some reason, I just didn't. And then I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on here, bro? What am I watching? And it kind of caught me off guard. And that's part of the coolness. My daughter's way into like not only like horror, but like weird, like weird movies. Like there's one called Midsummer. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I saw that. I just watched it.
Yeah,
so I just watched it, dude. And with my family, my wife and daughter watched it too because it was kind of not necessarily a scary one. It's just kind of weird, right?
It was weird, bro.
Yeah.
My wife and daughter, my oldest one, they love these weird movies, dude. There's another one with Jake Gyllenhaal called Enemy. You need to watch that one. That was freaking weird too, dude. Yeah. There's just some weird flicks out there. With the weird, I'm like, I'll pass, bro. I don't know.
But that movie, Midsummer. So I watched the movie after that. So Midsummer is a prequel to
it is.
Hereditary. Have you seen
Oh, okay. I
Hereditary
didn't know
yet?
that.
Yeah.
I
Did you
think
see
that one.
Hereditary?
I'm not sure if I watched. I have to see it. I
Hereditary
remember
is
the
another
title.
one that'll kind of be weird, bro. I would recommend that you watch that one. It's kind of weirdish, scariest, kind of get in your head kind of thing.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
actually kind of a trip. That one's actually, that's one of the ones that I would say to my brother-in-law, if you haven't seen it, that one might get in your head. So and my wife and my daughter saw Midsummer, and that was enough. And that wasn't even scary for me. That was just nothing, bro. But the
That was just
Hereditary
weird.
one,
I wouldn't say it was scary. It's just odd.
it's just odd. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just weird, man. So, but yeah, dude, I'm totally into it, bro. And I'm still trying.
Right.
So the Sinners thing, is it like a real horror movie? Like, is it kind of because it's marketed kind of like a scary horror movie?
No, the way that I would describe it, it is a timepiece. Mississippi, 1932. Okay. There's a lot of most of the cast is black, and so there's a lot of reference to slavery and all that. And basically, the storyline is about these two brothers, twins, which is Michael B. Jordan. He's a twin of himself, right? Yep. And they want to start like a nightclub, right? They call them a juke joint, right? In the movie. And basically, it's about that. They get it started. So I would say that probably 80% of the movie is just like a regular movie. It's just building towards, they're organizing their stuff. They just came back into town. They're getting everything. And then the last 20% is where stuff goes on, stuff goes sideways. And if you watch Dusk Till Dawn, I mean, again, I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I'll say this much, it's a vampire type movie, right? Okay. And so basically that's where it turns into, you kind of
and vampire movies don't really scare
me. No,
me.
they don't need. Did you watch? No, I can't even say it.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, yes. Did you watch that?
I just watched it. I just watched it about a month ago, and it was weak, dude. To me, it was weak.
Because I'll tell you, it wasn't scary at all, but the cinematography of it,
that's what's cool about it, and it was kind of like
it was
gory.
Like really cool.
There were some gory parts to it, but you know what? Have you seen Bram Stoker's Dracula?
Yes, the original.
Exact same storyline, bro.
Yeah,
it's the exact same storyline.
Exactly.
The exact
Except
same
they put a little more. They put a little more artsy.
There's a little twist to it that was different than the Bram Stoker's Dracula, but Bram Stoker's Dracula is a way better movie, dude.
Yeah, it's basically a love story. At the end of the day,
that's what Bram Stoker's Dracula is. This one wasn't that way. Nosferatu was kind of just I don't know, whatever, man. I don't want to spoil it for everybody, bro. But dude, that's cool, man. We can talk about movies. Cool. Let's get into the hoops, man. So, let's do that. So I sent you a slide set, man.
Yep.
And,
all right.
And I don't know if you reorganized the.
No, let me get it. No. It should be all.
Should be all in the same order. But we're gonna go ahead and break down the Eastern Conference series first. So hopefully for the audience, great, dude. It came out fine. All right. So here, we're gonna go ahead and cover the first game actually, because the second game's actually going on right now, and the Heat actually started out really, real hot. They were up by like 15 to 16 points on this, and then the Cavs completely turned it around in the second half, and they're ahead by double digits. I haven't even looked up what the score is right now.
But it's 81-68 right now. The Cavs.
Yeah, so it's it's 13 points. It's not that bad, but still, I thought, okay, the Heat are showing up here, man. But the thing is that the 1-8 series, we're all expecting the Cavs to essentially just pretty much win this thing. You called it in 5, I called it in 4. It's going to be a gentleman's sweep in your mind. I'm going to say it's going to be a complete sweep. This is the Heat are a really good number 8 seed. They are probably the better 8 seed in my opinion than the Memphis Grizzlies, which we'll get into later, right? But these guys, they've gone through a lot of turmoil with Jimmy Butler, over the season. And, Jimmy Butler created some chaos and havoc because he wasn't happy there. And then ultimately got traded. Andrew Wiggins is now there in place of Jimmy Butler. And Andrew Wiggins is actually playing pretty well for them. He's actually becoming more offensive oriented, which is interesting than he was for the Warriors, where, he was more of a defensive guy on the Warriors, but he's become more of an offensive guy. So he's a good compliment to Tyler Hero. And Bam Adebayo, I think. I think this team, it could be a challenge, but against the Cavs, there's no match, man. I just don't see it.
No, I agree. There's really, the Cavs. Spider Mitchell's been good. Darius Garland's had a hell of a year. Evan Mobley, I've talked about him, and he's a contender for Defensive Player of the Year. Which, in my opinion, if Draymond doesn't get it, he will. I think it's down to them two, honestly. Between who's going to get it. Jared Allen's, I think he's been okay. But I do want to mention a couple of things. So, kind of with Andrew Wiggins, you saying that I think that shows, at least shows me that he understands the situation. He was less of a scorer here because he didn't have to be.
Didn't
Right?
have to be.
We had Clay, we had Steph, we had, so he was the third scorer at best here.
Right.
Even the year we won the championship, he was the second best offensive
player. Jordan Poole was the third option.
We had Jordan Poole, but I do want to mention a couple of things. Number one, when Jimmy Butler left, I think he definitely left a gap in their leadership. Right, Andrew Wiggins is not the leader that Jimmy Butler is. I mean, he's not close.
He's not a leader type.
He never will be. And I think Bam Adebayo is slowly stepping into that. I think Tyler Hero is the one that he made his first All-Star this year. But the guy that I've been kind of pleasantly surprised here is the guy that you kind of highlighted off the bench, which is Davion Mitchell. That dude, he's been playing really well. He pretty much single-handedly helped beat the Hawks in the play-in game. I mean, in overtime. And he is just your typical Heat player. So I think
he's a great fit for him, bro. I mean, this team fits him better than the Kings or the Raptors because he played for those two other organizations before he came here. So it's a great fit.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I think that I would do, and one thing that's bothering me a little bit about the starting five of the Heat is Alec Burks is a good scorer, but he's looking for his offense way too much. Like he's just shooting as though he's like the number one option on the team. And I'm like, dude, you're not that. You can get hot, and everyone knows he can get hot. But to me, for next year, not necessarily this year, Davion Mitchell would be my starting point guard. I'd have Alec Burks off.
He probably will be. I mean, he's probably going to work his way into that.
Yeah, off of the starting. And
I agree.
Yeah, and the other guy that we watched during the summer league is Kel'el Ware. He hasn't really played.
He's in the starting five now, bro. Yeah, he's starting now.
He's a man-child, bro. Like, I think that if he would have had more playing time, he definitely would have been making more of an impact. He's stronger, bigger, and faster than I think he knows. Like, I see him playing kind of like, dude, like, you're a big boy, bro. Like, I think he can do more than what he's doing.
He's only 19 years old, bro. I think he's only 19 or 20 years old. So he's still growing, right? Yeah. He's still becoming. He's a big dude and he's athletic, man. And coming out of Indiana, where Mike Woodson, he turns these centers into pros, right? So he's, that's where Trace Jackson Davis came too, right? He came from there as well. So, but real quick, before we get into it even more, because I wanted to kind of step through what the audience is looking at here. So what I did here is I went ahead and looked at it from a fantasy perspective, and I used the point system that we have been using all along in this, in our podcast, is that we kind of use I go ahead and accumulate the stats, and I put a point system to the stats. So points are points. So 2-3 points, right? Those are points. But then for every rebound, it's 1.2 points. And for every assist, it's 1.5 points. And then for every block and steal, it's 3 points, right? So what you're seeing here is, for the example for the Heat, right? You see game one, they scored 100 points. There's an L. They lost, right? But you see their starting five, right? You show the total. That's the total fantasy points accumulated through all games played. Right now, you're only seeing the total points accumulated fantasy points wise for one game, but you see that their minutes played. You can see I have that listed. And then in the FPT, that's fantasy points per second, per minute. Did I put fantasy point? I did put. I can't see it very well. Fantasy point totals. So you can see 47.3 is an accumulation of this: points, rebounds, assists, steals. I also take into account turnovers. That's minus points. And then what I do here is kind of a metric that maybe a lot of this fantasy players look at is fantasy points per minute, right? So you can see that how I get to that is 47.3 divided by 39 minutes gives you the 1.21. And the highest one is what I highlight in that kind of light orange for both the starting five as well as the bench five, right? Or the bench players. So Davion Mitchell is the guy that I highlighted because he's been the most effective as far as getting the most stats per minute, right? That's kind of what this measures. So if you go to the Cavs, you look at them, Donovan Mitchell, he's their guy. You can see the fantasy points per minute difference between him and Bam Adebayo, right? It's 1.5, 8, right, per fantasy points per minute. And then you look at their bench. I mean, that's a 1.48. I mean, that's showing you that their bench is pretty damn good, right? I mean, look at the
ex-Warrior, by the way.
Yeah, Ty Jerome. I thought they gave up on him way too quickly, bro.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
man. They should have kept him. But you can see that the rotation that the Cavs is a little deeper by one player, right? You can see that their minutes is distributed pretty equally, not equally, but more distributed amongst four players. Whereas you can see on the bench of the Heat, it's pretty much Davion Mitchell for the most part and Haywood Highsmith. That's pretty much it as far as it's a 7 and a 7.5 man rotation, and that's pretty much speaks to the Cavs and their depth, right? So that's what I wanted to kind of show you is what everybody. And we're going to do this for each and every series.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Eddie. What is, in your experience as a fantasy player?
Yeah.
What is a good range for someone to have in terms of fantasy points per minute? Like,
well,
what
right
is
right now? What you see right now, like a 1.58 is unridiculous. It's really, really good. If you get anything above that, that's like really, really good. And the thing is, you take into account, which I didn't want to complicate things here, but you also kind of want to take into account how much that player costs to play, because you only have so much salary cap money that you can spend in order to come up with a roster for your starting lineup, right? You can pick 9 players, and then you have $60,000 fake dollars, right, to come up. And Donovan Mitchell's close to $9,000, right? So you kind of look at, the fantasy points per minute, then you're going to look at fantasy points per dollar. There's a lot of metrics that come into this to make that decision. But I'm just pointing out, for the simple fact, just looking at the stats, what the fantasy points per minute comparison, right? But your question is very valid, because you're going to see a wide range right here. I've given you like a 1.5 to 2 is like excellent. It's like, whoa, you got to play that player, right? Anything around 1 is kind of average. Below 1 is not really good, right? For fantasy perspective, right? So just to kind of outline what you're seeing here.
Okay.
Right?
Well, one thing that jumps out to me in observation is what happened to Jaime Jaquez. Is he hurt?
He's out of the rotation right now. He's not even playing.
That's crazy to me.
I know. Because he played a lot his rookie season. He played a lot.
He did.
And
he
then
played a lot in the beginning of this year too.
Yeah, this guy Haywood Highsmith has actually been outplaying him, and he's the guy who's kind of taking his spot. And Haywood Highsmith has been playing very, very well. You can see like his point total in his first. He had 19.2 fantasy points, which is actually pretty good for a bench player, right? I mean, in this game, he's actually doing pretty good too right now. So and right now, I think Cleveland's going to go lead the series up to 2-0. Right now, from when we did this, it was 1-0. Now I think they're going to go up 2-0. So.
I think you're right. Another observation I have right off the bat is, DeAndre Hunter was a big, middle of the season or whatever acquisition. There was a lot of hype. So far, at least in game 1, not much of an impact. Pretty low.
Yeah, but he's more of a defensive-minded guy. I mean, that's what they brought him out for, a perimeter defender, because he's actually really, really good at that. Whereas in Atlanta, I think he was kind of forced to score because they didn't have much scoring. But, here at Cleveland, they have scoring galore, a lot of good shooters. This guy's predominantly a perimeter defender, which is why they brought him over. So, any other parting shots before we move on to the next series in the East?
No. I like this. I think this is good because it consolidates pretty much all of the stats. The NBA tends to focus on points leaders and things like that. And I like this stat because we're looking at them holistically as a player, right? Like, what is their impact?
Correct. You're looking at everything that they do to contribute to the game, right? But the thing is, the other thing that I want to kind of call out, though, Toine, is that accumulation of stats is an indicator. It's not the sole indicator of how good a player really is. Because you have these other, advanced, analytics with the plus minus, right? Kind of showing like a player's impact to the overall team play, right? They may not score, but they might do a lot of other things that don't show up on the stats, right? They could be defending very well. Because if you're a very good defender, right, without any blocks or any steals, that's not going to show up, right? But you can be like a lockdown defender, like an Andrew Wiggins. He's a really good defender. When he's really engaged, he could lock you down, may not come up with a block, may not come with a steal, but his impact to the game is pretty good, right? He can do other things like rebound and all that. I'm just giving you kind of an idea, like someone like a Ben Wallace, right? A Ben Wallace back in the day, Dennis Rodman back in the day. They weren't like high scorers.
Draymond Green,
right? They don't have to score to do well, right? So I just wanted to kind of point that out.
Yeah, but the one thing I guess I would look at this metric is I would kind of reverse it, and I would say that only 2 players on the Heat even scored above 1. Right,
one fantasy points per minute. You're talking about,
above 1, and everyone else was sub that, which to me at least tells me one of 2 things: either they're sucking or the defense of the Cavs is shutting them down.
That's correct, bro. It's a good way of looking at it. But that gives you an
Yeah.
idea. You can see the overall strength of a roster based on these kind of analytics that are meant for fantasy players, right? You can kind of fantasy players look at, they want to accumulate as much stats as possible because they want to be able to justify spending so much money on a player to put them in their lineup. And the ones that actually accumulate the most stats are the ones that make the most sense. So this is a metric of how effective they are in accumulating stats to contribute towards playing the game, right? So that's kind of what I wanted to show here, bro. Let's go to the next one, bro.
Moving on.
So let's go to the next one. So we got the Celtics. So game 2 is happening right now. The Magic actually were playing them pretty hard in the very beginning, but the Celtics,
yes, they were.
and the Celtics are without Jason Tatum, right? They're playing without Jason Tatum.
He hurt his wrist. Yeah,
exactly. And and it got to tonight's game. I was watching a little bit before the podcast that it got a little chippy again because Caldwell Pope tripped over Al Horford by accident. Al Horford fell to the floor, and then the altercation almost happened again, and they had to kind of go look at the replay, and the replay showed that it was just total accident. But you can see that they're heightened right now, like their senses and their attitudes. Everybody's just hyped up for this, man, because they
the Magic are a big team. They're a physical team. They're a big team. They're going to play you more physical, and Boston's not as much. Right? Boston's a more great defensive team, perimeter defense, help defense. Magic are more bully ball to some extent. Not quite there, but they're just big boys. Which, by the way, they're down at 102.91 right now.
Yeah, but what's interesting, bro, is that in just watching, just doing the eye test. You're right. The Orlando Magic are a big bruising team. All right. Boston isn't a bruising team. I would classify them more as a finesse team, but they lock down defense. They play very, very good, man. All right. Especially their two guards, man. Their two guards are probably the best, defensive guards in the entire league with Derek White and Drew Holiday, right? Drew Holiday is a beast. In my opinion, I think Drew Holiday is probably the best perimeter defender in the NBA to me. Just watching that guy play, he's an unbelievable defender. And he can defend at multiple positions too, right? Even though he's a smaller guy, he's a strong dude, right? And Derek White's the exact same thing. So the thing is, but the difference that I see, right now that I watch in this game, bro, is that Boston has been kind of a team that kind of really relies on the three, right? They're very reliant on the three. And they actually all of their guys on the floor can shoot threes pretty well. But what I've seen in this game in particular is that they're not really shooting that many threes right now. They're driving the basket a big time. That's a big change that they did in this game. And I think that's probably because they recognize that, the Magic are a very good defensive team, and they're going to have to get them into foul trouble, right? By driving the basket is the way to do it. And and Orlando Magic cannot shoot, bro. They are
they're a very poor shooting team.
They are horrible, man. I mean, KCP is like 0 for 7, and he was to be like a Kentavious Caldwell Pope being KCP. Yep. He's a guy that came over. He's a 3-and-D guy, but dude, all he can do is really D, right? He can't shoot worth a crap. The Franz Wagner is hit and miss. The Paulo Banchero is hit and miss. Wendell Carter, he's out there shooting threes, and he's a center, and he's okay as well here. But other than that, dude, they can't shoot, dude. And the thing is, when the pace of play slows down, especially in the playoffs, it happens. You need people who can put the ball in the basket, and you need shooters, bro. Shooters are needed very much in the playoffs, and teams that can shoot and do it at a high percentage and play defense are the ones that win, bro. So that's my call, bro.
Yeah, no, I agree. Transition offense is at a minimum during the postseason. I mean, you're right. They don't score. I mean, Paulo Banchero is great in the low post. He's a big physical player. I think that's where he's at. In the offseason, there was talk that potentially Klay Thompson could come to this team, that this was something that they needed badly.
They need a shooter.
They need at least 2 shooters, to be honest with you. They need more than one. And they didn't really do much around that area. Corey Joseph, who I completely had forgotten about, up until the
he was on the Warriors. He was on the Warriors.
Yeah. I mean, he's an old San Antonio Spur.
Exactly.
And I had completely.
He played a lot of teams, man.
Yep. I look at his, points here and like per minute, and it's horrific. It's 12. Point 12. Which is like that's like, dude, get on the bench. Don't come back. Kind of deal. You know,
but I agree with you. But look, okay, but I gave your question is actually very pertinent because now you can kind of look at as a guide, right? The 1.5 to 2 is like ridiculous. Paulo Banchero is at 1.36 fantasy points per minute,
which is the highest of both teams.
Correct, and he costs roughly about $9,400, $500 range, okay, to play him in FanDuel with the $60,000 salary cap, right? So you compare that to like a Donovan Mitchell, who's roughly about $8,800. You're saving about $700 you can put in another position and probably get roughly about the same amount of point totals. Because you saw Donovan Mitchell in the last slide, he was in the 57, 58 point range too, but he was $700 less. So you can see that he's, from a dollar standpoint, he's way more efficient. From a minute standpoint, he played less minutes than Paulo Banchero and scored about the same amount of points. So you can see that, the metric holds, right? The 1.36 is respectable. But, you can see if you go to the other side with the Celtics, right? The Celtics, you have two guys that are in the 1.2, almost the 1.2 range with Tatum and Derek White, right? Then you have Kristaps Porzingis, roughly about 1.13. After that, everybody else hovers right around 1, except for the Cornet, right? Everybody else is roughly about 1. You compare that
and when I look at that, that's what's scary about the Celtics, right?
They're very balanced.
They're not just, when you're looking at these numbers, they're not highly dependent on just one player.
Correct.
They distribute it pretty evenly, and just props to Peyton Pritchard, which I know at the end of the year we'll go over our awards predictions.
He got 6th man of the year.
Yeah, he just won 6th man of the year, so kudos to him. Old man Al Horford's still chugging along. I don't know how many years he's got left, but he's been around forever.
Yeah, but dude, it's interesting though. But you can see how balanced the Celtics are, and the fact that they're beating the Magic without Jason Tatum in there. They're the only team. I mean, they called it out on the TNT broadcast today. Kenny Smith was kind of saying that they're the only team in the playoffs right now that can win without their two best players. And you might be right, bro. That's how deep this team is.
Well, you and I have had this discussion, and I don't want to keep bringing the same topics, but to me, I know that Tatum and Brown are their quote-unquote two best players. I know that. But to me, the difference on that team is Derek White and Jrue Holiday. Like, that's why
they're the X factors.
Champions. That's why they're the one. You take those those guys out of the equation, they're not winning a championship. They're just. I don't think Tatum and Brown are enough.
I agree.
Not right now at this stage in their careers. And so to me, the real two valuable guys are those two guys.
Exactly. But then you got someone like a Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench who's really, really good. You got an Al Horford who's still very good at his age. He's 37 years old, or might even be older. 38.
I think he's a little older.
You might be a little older, but he's still very, very effective, man. And then you got the Sam Hausers of the world who are out there just specialists for shooting, right? I mean,
Cornet.
Cornet is good. He's a good contributing guy. I mean, he was kind of a bench warmer at a lot of different places, but he's been playing here and he does well. So they have other guys that are not even here that actually can contribute too. So it just goes to show, the Celtics team, to me, I have them in the finals. You have them. You have them getting beat by the Cavs. But in this series, you have the Celtics in 6. I have the Celtics in 5. We're both I think picking the right team to win it. It's just a matter.
Yeah, but I'm feeling more confident about your pick than mine. We'll see. Things tend to change when the Magic will go home. Maybe their players in their house will play a little bit better, and they'll take 1 or 2, from there. But right now, 5's looking more realistic than 6.
Yep. Right on, man.
And another difference just from last year to point out, Porzingis was hurt for most of the postseason last year. And, he's been available now, and that's,
he's a difference maker, man. Porzingis is a problem, all right?
He stretches the floor out. Yeah, he stretches the floor out, and nobody on the Magic's team can really.
And he's 7'3", and he posts up too. He does the post up thing, but he doesn't do it in the traditional way where you do a hook like a big guy. He just turns around and takes a shot over you, right? Because he's so tall, right?
Yeah, you're not stopping that.
No, he's a problem, man. So this team, to me, I have them going all the way. I don't know if we both didn't pick them to win it, but they're going to be in the finals, in my opinion. I think to me, right? You're picking the Cavs. Let's go to the next series, bro.
All right, here we go.
So we'll go to the Pistons and the Knicks, bro. So this one is tied at 1-1, man. The number 6 Pistons versus the number 3 Knicks, and we can go ahead and just you called it, man. You said that Detroit was going to be a problem. And right now, look, you have the Pistons in 7. I have the Knicks in 7. I think we're both going to get. I think it's going to go to 7 games, man.
I think so too. I think so.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I will note is, I think the Pistons' youth cost them game 1. I think the Pistons could have and should have won game 1 as well.
Right.
The Pistons should have been up 2-0, but the Knicks went on a roll. What I'm really curious about this is I want to look at the minutes distribution, right?
Yep.
Like look at everybody in the starting 5 of the Knicks. There's no one in the 20-minute range off the bench,
at least for the first game. For the first game, but the second game, yes. But the first game, no.
Yeah.
First game, yes, because the second game was Mitchell Robinson. He had 20 minutes in the second game.
Correct. Yep. And for the Pistons, it's I don't want to say it's balanced, but they have several players in the 30, 20-minute range. 2 players at least, Schroeder and Beasley, that take up a lot of minutes. Isaiah Stewart, I guess, didn't play in the second game.
Well, he was hurt. He got hurt, so they scratched him for the second game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then he's one that would probably get some minutes, like he did in the first game, which would even balance that out better. And like I said, I think the Celtics are more – I think the Knicks are more talented. They've got the better starting 5. I just think they're going to wear down, and this is the wrong team to wear down against because they're going to lean on you and push you and make you work, and it's just – this is not a good matchup for the Knicks. They needed someone who was a little more, flowy and kind of, transition basketball. These guys are just like old school bad boy Pistons, dude. That's what they're basically kind of turning into, and this is a bad Knicks, and I feel good about my pick. And I think it's going to go 7.
I think it's going to go 7, man. I think it's going to go 7. But check it out, bro. I mean, look at the starting 5's minutes on the Knicks. All right, you have 3 guys, consistently right around 3 guys in the 40-minute range consistently. Whether it's Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, and Jalen Brunson. Then you got in the next game, you got Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson again. Then you got OG Anunoby. Karl Anthony Towns saved himself 6 minutes in the second game. But look at their bench, dude. I mean, that's their problem. I mean, and the thing is, look at the points per minute for especially in the second game, bro. We had 2 guys in the negative points. They're at negative 0.25 per minute. That's putrid, man. All right. And even when they get minutes, you only had 1 guy. Mitchell Robinson's the only guy, and I highlighted him in both the games, right? In the first game, he was at 1.31 points per minute. Second game, he's not even at 0.5 points per minute, right? And then the barometer of 1.5 being a very good contributing Karl Anthony Towns did that, right? He did that, but you need more than that to more balanced team than that to be able to win consistently. And if you look at the Pistons, they had 2 guys in Cade Cunningham and also Jalen Duren in the first game that are over 1. In the second game, you have 2 guys over 1. But you look at the fantasy points per minute for the Knicks, they had 4 of them in each of the games. Or in the first game they had 4 of them in the one point per minute range. Then in the second game they only had 1 guy in the starting, right? But you look at the bench of the Knicks, you have the 1 guy in Malik Beasley getting over 1, and the other one in Dennis Schroeder in the second game getting close to 1, and then Paul Reed, who didn't play that much, but he still got one point per minute. That shows you that the bench players on the Pistons have been more effective. Really,
they're helping them win. And you look at game 2 for the Knicks. The lowest starter minutes was Karl Anthony Towns with 33 minutes. That's the lowest starter minutes.
Yes.
Other than that, almost everybody else was around the 40-minute range.
Yep. And then you look at, on the you use that in comparison. You have Tim Hardaway and Ausar Thompson not even at 30 minutes, right? And they're starters, right? Yep. And that's probably because Bickerstaff looked at the effectiveness of Beasley and Schroeder, probably just said, okay, let me play those guys more, right, in the second game. So that's probably what happened here, man. But I see this one going 7. The Pistons are definitely impressing me, bro. The Knicks, I think the not finding a consistent, player coming off the bench may hurt them. In the end, we'll see. I mean, these guys are, like you called it, bro. These guys might get tired in the second series, and they may not be able to come out after the series because they're just going to be so.
Even if the Knicks win this one, the next series is going to they're going to keel over, man. It's just it's too much time. And just one other observation, Asar Thompson, who's Amen's brother,
Yes.
or twin brother, I guess I should say.
Yes.
He's great defensively, but that guy needs to get better scoring under the hoop.
Both of them do. They both are the same. They're both one and the same.
They're horrible around the basket, man.
They can't shoot, man. Either one of them can't really shoot, but they're really good athletic guys, man. They're like ridiculous, right? They're like really good. Amen's probably a little bit better than Asar right now, but they're both similar size and both similar athleticism, man. So
well, if they can figure it out, in this case, Asar Thompson, if he can figure it out, that's going to push the Pistons to another level next season.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this. Do you think as constructed, the Pistons are still going to be, better next year, or do you think they still need another piece?
No, I think a whole season with, and I don't remember what Schroeder's contract situation is. But I think first of all, I want to comment on Jalen Duren. That dude is a beast. Like that's a large man, and I think that he's going to get better. So I think as the team constantly constructed, Asar Thompson, he does a little bit of improvement. I think Jalen Duren is going to improve. You may start looking for a natural replacement for Tobias Harris, because Tobias Harris has got to be on the other side of 35 now, I would imagine. So, that's somebody that you're going to look at. Isaiah Stewart is someone who I like, but that dude's a bit of a head case. And I don't know, how he impacts the team kind of from that perspective long term. But I think that, I think they have little tweaks here and there. And I think they're going to naturally get better. I don't think they have to do much. Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot of youth on that team. I mean, the only guys that are really, Tobias Harris is a veteran. Tim Hardaway is a veteran, and then Dennis Schroeder. Other than that, everybody else, Malik Beasley is a veteran too. You got to give it to him. But other than that, everybody else is pretty young. Paul Reed has kind of been around too, but everybody else is pretty young. So
and I liked Ron Holland in the summer league, and I thought he was doing pretty well. He hasn't translated so far to the regular season.
Just get enough minutes, man. He just doesn't.
Yeah, but I think that's someone that I think could potentially improve and make that team better.
Yeah,
so I agree, I think they're good, and the Knicks need a bench, bro. They just need a bench.
They just need a bench, bro, big time, dude.
So I'm calling it right now. I think that if they lose here, they're gonna fire the coach, and they're gonna hire someone like Malone or
not a bad call.
Yeah, or the guy they just let go in Phoenix, dude. Because
Budenholzer.
Yeah, Budenholzer, the coach they have now. I like him from a defensive perspective. But, dude, he wears his guys. And
maybe Taylor Jenkins. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, that's another possibility. I mean, there's a lot of good possibilities there. But to me, I would go with Malone. If I was them, I think Malone is the right guy for New York. I think his personality fits. I think that he would be a little bit of a better fit. But if they lose in this round, I think he goes.
Yeah, not a bad call, bro. I mean, they should find a coach that's able to leverage the entire roster. But, in his mind, he's probably thinking, okay, Miles McBride, Cameron Payne, these guys are just a dime a dozen. They really can't help me. They're small. I need someone bigger. You could also argue it's roster construction too, right? You can argue
I agree, but in this day and age in the NBA, and we're old schoolers, and back in the day, the players played every minute that they possibly could, and they're not like that anymore. They don't train like that anymore. They don't prepare like that anymore. He's got to just balance out the regular season. They haven't won a championship, but he's got to have a little bit of the mentality, the regular season. You kind of just got to get into the playoffs, and stop abusing your guys with minutes, and I think that they'll go farther. But they have a talented squad. I mean, you look at that starting five.
The starting five is ridiculous, man.
What's funny is I look at Josh Hart, right? And I think, dude, Josh Hart is like a poor man's Jimmy Butler. Like the way he moves, the way he plays, the way he. Yeah, I'm like, dude, that's like Jimmy Butler out there, and so they have a solid team, and so
OG Anunoby is a very similar player. OG Anunoby is a very similar player. They're very similar. They're similar. They're both defensive minded, but Josh Hart does more from a, I would say, from a rebounding standpoint, probably from a passing standpoint, he's better. But OG Anunoby is he's a good rebounder. He's a decent scorer. So they have two of the same guys. So So we'll see, man. But all right, so we both think that it's going to go 7. You're picking Detroit. I'm picking the Knicks. All right, this one we got. This one's. I think we both called the Pacers, right? We both called the Pacers in 7. He might even be quicker than that, bro. I mean, Giannis is by himself, dude. Right?
Dude, if Milwaukee doesn't win the next game, it's over, bro.
Dude, they have to win the next game, right? But the thing is, Damian Lillard came back, right? He came back in the second game. He didn't play in the first game. You can see he got, goose eggs in the first game because he didn't play. His first game was in game 2, and he played, 36 minutes, scored 26.1 fantasy points, good for 0.73 points per minute. They just need somebody else to score, right? Because Giannis, dude, he's Hercules out there, bro. I mean, look at his points per minute, bro. Look at his points per minute. Yep. I mean, 1.67 is ridiculous, dude.
No, but so far that's the highest of anybody we've had so far.
Correct, but he costs $11,800 to play him, right? And sometimes he's $12,000, right? So that just gives you an idea, like okay, you can play him, but damn, you get $60,000 to spend.
Yeah,
you're spending almost more than a sixth of your entire salary cap. So, but anyway, but you can see, man, this team is in trouble, bro. I mean, look at the efficiency of everybody else on that team, bro. Look at their starting 5, bro. All right, Brook Lopez less than a point, Taurean Prince less than a point, Kyle Kuzma had 0 in the first freaking game, dude. Look at the second game. Damian Lillard, him and Brook Lopez were respectable, okay? And so was Taurean Prince. But holy dude, Kyle Kuzma, that guy has not showed up yet, bro. What's up with that guy, right? Kuzma. Dude.
Yeah.
And then, it's
that may prove to be a poor trade. I mean, I know they traded what's his name? Chris Middleton, who was a lot of money and was expensive, and this was more than just a talent swap, but Kuzma, I don't know. He's looking lost out there.
He is looking lost, bro. He's looking, and in my opinion, I think they should play Kevin Porter more. All right, he's a bigger guard. He looked pretty effective in the first game. I mean, he was at almost a point per minute. He has scored 28.5 fantasy points. For in 29 minutes. That's respectable. He's in 2 games. He's scored 40.2 points. Bobby Portis last game. They got to start playing him more because look at that guy. He played 31 minutes. Scored 46.9 points, bro, in the last game because they needed to, right? They lost, 123 to 115, but without him, they would have gotten toasted even more, right? Yeah. So Bobby Portis, just to give you an idea, is roughly about $6,700, right? And that's kind of a lot to spend on a player that doesn't start, just so you know. But that's the thing is, I understand why, Doc Rivers wants to have someone of that capability, that talent to come off the bench because then he's playing against guys that are second, kind of second tier guys. But this team is in trouble, dude. They might have to put him in the starting lineup and probably put like someone like Kyle Kuzma on the bench, bro.
I agree.
Maybe have him come off the bench.
I agree. Next game, if you put Portis on the start and sit Kuzma, I mean those guys all have to have above 30 minutes if you're gonna win that game. And I don't even know if that guarantees you a win. And I hadn't realized, I guess, that Lillard's been out since I think March 14th.
He's been out for a while, bro.
Yeah, so that's over a month. That's not enough time for him to ramp back up, And then you got Halliburton there getting chippy. He's talking to everybody. I didn't even know he was that much of a talker, bro.
I didn't either, man.
Talking smack to everybody. I'm like,
dude, did you hear this? Everybody was talking about this report about the most overrated players in the league. Did you hear about this report?
No, I didn't know.
Oh, okay. So they were talking about, and after the post-game show, they asked Jim Carrey, the Carlisle, the coach for the Pacers. Yes. Did you see that Tyrese Halliburton was considered one of the most overrated players in the league? And dude, that guy just blew up. He was like, dude, he's like, it's bullshit, BS, right? I'm not gonna say it. You shouldn't say it. Dude, that's BS. What are you listening to? He's like, they have Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green as 2 overrated players, and that is like, this is horse crap, right? This is BS, man. He's like, I'm not saying I'm done with this. I'm done with it, right? He just walked out. It was pretty funny, dude. But
hot, there was like he runs hot.
Yeah, there was a report about players in the NBA, and this was like an anonymous poll.
I think it was made by the Athletic.
Yeah, and the thing is that it was a poll from other NBA players and what their opinion was, right? On and I guess the overall, collective put, Halliburton as one of the guys. They actually had Giannis Antetokounmpo in there too. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, bro. They're a bunch of haters, man.
Well,
Bunch of
so
haters.
the reason that I don't trust that so much is because the NBA, like everything in life, you have cliques, you have your friends, you have people that get on your nerves, and I question how objective some of these people are.
Right.
Right. So, like, if Halliburton's chirping as much as he does during the regular season, as I've noticed now, then I can see a lot of people not liking him. That doesn't
Right.
mean he's not good. That doesn't mean he's overrated. That just means you don't like him, And
Right.
so so you vote him as overrated because you don't like him. So I question, like on that same independent report, there was a lot of players that were grouping Curry as one of the players that gets the most unnecessary fouls. Like he gets a bunch of fouls in his favor, and I'm like, dude, are you watching?
Yes, dude.
Are you
Yes.
I don't know who these players are, but I don't know if you guys are
They're
watching
smoking it, man.
games.
I want someone what they're smoking. That's all I want, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, real quick. Let's get back into this. Look at the Pacers. Look at the stark difference, okay, in the overall roster. Okay, you look at their fantasy points per minute. And by the way, in the second game, I highlighted Miles Turner, and that was a mistake. It should be Pascal Siakam who should be highlighted as the leader in the second game at 1.43.
Yes,
you
you're
can
right.
see 1.43 is really, really good. Then in the first game, you had Miles Turner at 1.39, really, really good. Pascal Siakam 1.29. Their whole starting five was at over one, except for just one, Aaron Nesmith, right? But look at their bench, bro. Their whole bench. They scored. I mean, they have all of them over 10 minutes per, and they have five guys playing. They have a 10-man rotation in the playoffs right now, bro. That's crazy. I mean, that you don't hear that, and that just goes to show you how deep this team is, and they're a problem. They didn't play very well in the beginning of the season, and they just started cranking up towards the middle and the end of the season, and we're seeing very quickly this team is a problem, bro. They're going to be a problem.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. And the Bucks have been up and down all year. They, for most of the season, they had a poor record and they were just trying to crawl up. Fortunately for them, they were in an Eastern Division or an Eastern Conference that, that had they had that same record in the West, they wouldn't be where they're at, obviously. But Damian Lillard missing time is going to cost them. I think that trade of Kyle Kuzma might end up costing them a little bit.
Oh yeah,
in the short term. So yeah, I just don't. Giannis is a beast. He's the best player on the court. That's clearly obvious. You can't stop him. But unless like someone like Brook Lopez or Damian Lillard start getting hot, like that's really all the help that he has. Maybe Porter, like you said, or not Porter, Portis. But yeah, but yeah, you look at the Pacers and that game one, for example, you got 4 guys that are above 5 guys if you include TJ McConnell. And so, that's
and look at TJ.
That's
look
good.
at TJ
That's
McConnell's
good
output,
distribution.
man. Look at TJ McConnell. He was the best guy both games off the bench with his fantasy points per minute, 1.33.
And he was the best guy in the game on game 2.
Correct. I mean that. It's like goes to show you, why don't they play the guy more? He's playing 15 to 60 minutes. Play him like 20, man. I mean, he's made that much of a difference, man. Come on, right?
Well, it's hard to argue when you won both games, right? Then
you can't. I agree. He has to spread the love, I guess.
That mix is working fine, and and TJ McConnell, maybe he has some limitations, and so he puts him in certain matchups in certain situations.
Maybe he's maybe bursty. He gets tired.
That type of thing. But
he plays hard defensively. He plays really hard defensively.
Yep, and we both had it in 7. We both had the Pacers, and I don't think this is going to go 7.
I think it's going to go 5 at the most.
I agree, 5 at the most.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go. Now we're going to go to the Western Conference now, man. So, all right.
Do we have to talk about this game?
This one is brutal, dude. This one is brutal. I did not think Memphis would be a no-show like they have been, bro. I mean, they show like they have no heart. Like they have no pride, and that's scary, man. I mean, if you look at the Thunder, the way they've been playing, they look like they're the underdog. They look like they're one that they're trying to play the hardest because they're the one they're being underestimated. They won 68 games. It's crazy, man. And this team is very deep, man. I mean, if you look at they are deep, dude.
They're freaking me out, bro.
Yeah, but look at the fantasy points on the bench in the first game, dude.
No, look at Chet Holmgren in that first game, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, dude. Chet Holmgren had 43. He had 43 points, fantasy points. You had Jalen Williams at 45 points. In the second game, Jalen Williams is consistent at 45 points again. Chet Holmgren again at 43. I think I messed up on the second game because of the exact same. No, they're just the same. No, they got it exactly the same. Oh my God. No, you know what? I messed up on the second game. I didn't make the changes.
Isaiah Hartenstein should have been. But here's the scary part.
The stats are. They actually, you know what? No, they actually came out. Yeah, it came out interesting. The one thing that I messed up is I think the points. I didn't put the points right. So disregard. But the whole point here is that this one is a mess.
If your fantasy points per minute are accurate, here's the scary part of the Thunder. They smoked them both games, and their MVP was the lowest scoring fantasy point guy on both games.
Yes.
From the starter's perspective.
Yes.
That is freaking insane.
Dude, this team is a problem. And because they are just so freaking deep. All right? I mean, dude, Alex Caruso, look what he did in the second game.
Yeah, he woke up.
Points. 34.
He woke up. Like he's a menace.
Dude. Oh,
he's a menace. Jalen Williams is playing out of his mind.
Jalen Williams from Santa Clara. There's two of them.
Yes, correct.
The other one's from Arkansas. Yeah, the other one's from Arkansas.
Jalen with an L, not Jalen with a Y, I guess, or however you want to say it. But
Jalen with an I and Jalen with an E.
Yeah, exactly. Jalen with an E and Isaiah Hartenstein with his little push shot.
Yeah,
that little lefty push shot. He just it's money every time.
He's a pro. Dude, this team is young, hungry, and their defense is ridiculous, man. Their whole offense is spurred by their defense. They remind me of the running Rebels. Remember the running Rebels?
Yes,
that was their whole game, dude. They're exactly the same kind of makeup. They just D you up, and then they just go ahead and make the steal, and then outlet down, and they do a dunk. That's kind of their whole offense.
And Anthony, Stacey Ogman,
Grandmama. Who's the other guy?
I guess the thing that I'm
Ackles.
trying to decipher here is the Thunder this good or the Grizzlies playing this bad? Like I can't.
I think
to figure that out.
The Thunder are this good, but the Memphis Grizzlies are not that bad. And I don't know if they just, dude. I mean, they changed their coach, bro. Okay, and they did play better after their coach. This replacement. But dude, it's possible that this guy just doesn't know how to game plan, dude. Right? And whatever they're trying ain't working, bro. It's just whatever. And the thing is, they didn't even win one game against the Thunder in the entire regular season. This is just a bad matchup, I think, for this team, dude, right? Yeah. Triple J, he's a guy.
I love Triple J, but what's his deal? Like, why does he always want to play like a guard?
He does, dude. That's the thing. He's always in the perimeter. He's a big dude. He's 7 foot, man.
Dude, he's massive. He's built like a house. And I would qualify him as one of those dudes. Like as a big man, he's got the perfect NBA body. Like he's not too big, but he's thick enough where he can move people around. And like all I see is him shooting 3-pointers, and then he's always sourpuss face. I'm like, dude, what's going on with this dude? I love this dude, and like he's not showing up.
Yeah, dude. I mean, but look, dude. I don't know what's their problem, dude. I mean, they need to change up their offense, dude. I mean, they changed their offense in towards the tail end after when Taylor Jenkins got fired. They made Ja Morant be the centerpiece of their offense, and understandably because he's that electric. But it's not working against this team, dude. Against the Thunder, they know how to just shut you down if you were just focused on one guy being the focal point of your offense. They just know how to shut you down. This team is in dire need of Desmond Bane to blow up and Jaren Jackson to blow up, and maybe one of their other other guys. Santi Aldama, he's a good shooter, but he's not. John Conchar, maybe, I don't know. Marvin Bagley, he's improving.
The one thing I would say is this is Scottie Pippen Jr.'s first postseason. Maybe when he gets home, he'll feel a little more comfortable because his 3-point shot's been off both games, and he's been a little more consistent than he's shown in this series. So maybe when they go home, he'll get as they say, young players play better at home than on the road.
Yeah.
But the one that I've really been, I don't want to say disappointed, but really seems far away is Zach Edey. Like Zach Edey's he's disappeared in my opinion, in this series.
This Oklahoma City Thunder team is just too fast. They're just too fast for this team. They're just they have too big lumber. Not that Triple J's lumbering, but he's not agile enough to be able to keep up with Chet Holmgrens, the Isaiah Hartensteins, because those guys are very athletic too, right?
Yeah.
Shea Alexander. I mean, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander hasn't shown up really, like we all think he
No,
can.
not yet. That's
And
what makes this scary.
That's what's
That's
scary.
what makes this scary, dude.
I know. They're a problem, man. So I picked them in 4. You picked them in 5. I'm pretty confident with my 4, bro. I think
I'm pretty confident with your 4 too. It's gonna take. Put it this way: it's gonna take a miracle for them to get to 5.
I agree, bro. Let's move on from this one. Dude.
All right, yeah.
All right, so now this is the one that's taking place right now, game 2, right?
Yes.
Our Warriors, okay?
Yep.
They, it's interesting to see what's kind of been playing out with the Warriors and the Rockets, because I think, secretly they really wanted this, matchup, right? I think that
the Warriors did,
yeah. I think that they. The play-in they won, but I think, they really were trying to get the 6th seed, but I think secretly they really, really wanted to play the Rockets. So they didn't really take it that hard when Minnesota jumped them and became the 6th seed, right? But in the end, the Rockets and the Rockets and the Warriors have played 6 times already this season, one of them being a playoff game. The other 5 times, the Warriors were up 3-2. And only one of the games where the Rockets actually handed it to the Warriors, they won by 10 points, but all the other games have been very, very close. But the last game they played with Jimmy Butler and they lost by 10 points to the Rockets. But I think the Warriors were they're just kind of like maybe not taking it as seriously. They're just like whatever, we're just gonna play oppositioning. But then now in the second game, playoff Jimmy is a real thing, bro. I mean, he blew up, dude. Look at his fantasy points. 56.4 points in 42 minutes. That's good for 1.34 points per minute. He blew up in that first game, good. Right? I mean, he's overshadowed Steph Curry's 1.07 points per minute, right? Brandon Pajemski's third at 1.03. I mean, playoff Jimmy's a real thing, man. And the thing is, what I see in the observation in this series, bro, is that the Warriors, if they play defense and they play and they limit the rebounds, they're going to run away with this series, bro. Yeah, that's the part. That's the problem, because this is the best rebounding team in the entire league, and the best offensive rebounding team in the league, because Steven Adams is a beast, dude. I mean, they couldn't keep him off the glass, dude. Right?
And then no one can, bro. Superman can't move that dude, bro.
I know, but that's the thing is, this team though, they played really good defense, man. They're kind of like the Oklahoma City Thunder in tenacious defense, right? With Oklahoma City Thunder, the difference between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Rockets, they're both young teams, but one can shoot. One can shoot way better than the other one, right? This team can't shoot with a dime, dude, and that's going to be their Achilles heel. If by miracle they make it past the Warriors, which I don't think they will. It'll be interesting to see what happens tonight, because we're already at an hour in this podcast, bro, and it's a half an hour into the game, and we only have like 2 more games or the series to cover. But we're going to see very quickly if the Warriors are content in just going in 1-on-1, or if they're going to get very greedy and try to go 2-0. We're going to find out here.
Like I'm going to tell you right now, if the Warriors, from the Warriors' perspective, I mean, I think they need to be greedy, because I think they need the rest. I don't think they don't want this game going 6-7 games, because it's going to wear on them, and they don't want that, right? Yeah. Obviously, I think the ideal situation for the Warriors, and we haven't gotten to it yet, is the Warriors sweep and the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lakers go 7 games.
That would be ideal.
That's the ideal situation for the Warriors.
Yes.
Regarding the Rockets, I think the Rockets out-rebounded the Warriors 2-1.
22.
That last game. It was quite a bit.
No, actually, they got 22 offensive rebounds. Sorry, I think they got 22 offensive rebounds. But as far as how many more?
Yeah, I think it was like 2-1, like 30-something to 17 or something, 30 something like that. Maybe you have those stats, but the thing about the Rockets, Sengun is their best offensive player by far. It's not even close. But he is not like a go-to money guy. Right. They really don't have a go-to money guy. And so that's really where they're going to start hurting. When the Warriors are down, who their money guy is. Who's going to shoot. And if he happens to miss, that, who's going to step up and take over. But
they out-rebounded him by 16, by the way.
Yeah. And what were the numbers? 30.
So 52 to 36.
Oh, okay. 52 to 36.
52 rebounds to 36.
So not quite 2-1, but those numbers for the Warriors, if they want to win, that can't continue.
They can't continue. Yeah, right.
They can't.
And the thing is, for being as small as the Warriors are, they're actually a really good rebounding team. They are. It's just that they're going up against the best rebounding team in the league. And
Correct.
a lot of it is because the Rockets miss a lot of shots.
Yeah.
They get a lot of offensive rebounds, and that's a big part of their offense is just the putbacks that they get, right, from all their offensive rebounding, right? If they can limit that, they should take care of business.
Yeah.
We both picked this going 6. I think it's probably going to go 6. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 5 or 4.
Yeah.
But I think the Rockets are good enough to win. I think if they don't win this game, then it's going to go 4 or 5. This is their best chance to push it beyond 4.
I agree. The Rockets need to shoot better. They need to continue their rebound advantage. Fred VanVleet. I don't remember him shooting that poor. Like I must have counted like 5 or 6 wide open threes that he had, and just clunkers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I remember you being a lot better shooter than this. Well,
the right now, just a quick score check. The Warriors are down 9 right now.
Okay.
And early, but that last game they were down 8. So early.
And both Cleveland and Boston won. So
Yep. I saw that. Which is
expected. I think for here, really, what this series boils down to is rebounding. If the Warriors can keep it, relatively close, they should win this game with no problem. If the Rockets shooting, if they can keep the rebound edge and they can keep their shoot and they can improve their shooting, they're going to win 1 or 2 or 3 games out of this series. And in terms of the numbers that we're seeing, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Şengün is the highest ranked number. You look at everybody else. I mean, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, and Jalen Green. Jalen Green, dude, he's like,
missing in action. He's been missing in action against the Warriors.
I thought more of him, and I'm watching him. Yeah.
But Steven Adams is the problem, man. Steven Adams is a problem.
Steven Adams is a problem. Correct.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
And Eason's been playing pretty good as well. What happened to Cam Whitmore? Is he out of the rotation?
I think he might be out of the rotation. Or he might be injured. I'm not sure. So
because he was like their stud, right? He was like their guy.
Not really. I mean, he's spotty. He gets spotty minutes, man. The guy that on this team to watch out for in the years to come is we've already mentioned one of the Thompson twins, Amen Thompson. If he can get an outside shot going, that guy's gonna be a problem, dude. He is going to be a serious problem. Dylan Brooks. The guy apparently is like their best outside shooting guy right now. Can you imagine that? Having Dylan Brooks being the best outside shooter on a team, that's a problem, man. That's a problem.
That is a problem. If he's your best shooter, you got no shooting.
You got no shooting.
And my little birdies here have been whispering that the Rockets are going to try really hard to get Kevin Durant in the offseason.
Oh, then if they do, wow, then they're a problem.
That's going to be a serious problem if they get Kevin Durant.
If they get Kevin Durant, yeah. I mean, if they get somebody of that caliber that, even like a Devin Booker type, if they don't get a Kevin Durant, and let's say they get someone like another guy from the Phoenix Suns, Bradley Beal, I mean, that'll make them better. I mean, because he can shoot. They just need shooting, right?
Well, they need a guy that, hey, we need a bucket. And the guy goes, yeah, I'll get you a bucket. That's who they need. That's what they need. Şengün is not quite there. He will be in the next couple of years. He'll be a problem.
Well, he needs someone to get in the ball in order to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the problem. So, all right. So we both picked this going in 6, man. You still think?
No, I'm thinking now it's a little high.
Okay, so you're saying 5, 4, or 5?
5 or 4.
It depends on tonight. If the Warriors win tonight, it's going 4, maybe 5. But if the Rockets win tonight, then I think it's going to go 6. That's my call.
All right, good call.
All right, man. So let's go to we got what, 2 more to go, and then we're calling it, man. All right, so we had an hour and 8 minutes. We're not bad, bro. We're not bad. All right.
Bad.
So last night the Lakers tied up the series. It's now tied 1-1. They won the game 94-85. And the Lakers didn't really play all that great. It was pretty much the Luka Doncic show. I mean, the guy scored 49.1 fantasy points last night, which is good for 1.17 points per minute. He had a better output in game 1 as far as fantasy points per minute. But I think I messed up this one too, bro. I messed up this one because I just realized that the minutes and the points. What I did is I changed the minutes in the second tier, but I didn't change the points. So it should be different. But anyway, we don't have to talk about the fantasy part on this part because I messed that up. But there's a lot of work in putting this together. I think moving forward it's going to be better because I don't have as much work to do. When I first started doing this, it's a lot of work and just got tired.
I thank you for the effort, brother.
But anyway, the Lakers. Let me ask you this, bro. Do you see this series? Because you picked the Lakers in 7. I picked the Wolves in 7. Based on what you've seen thus far, are you confident in the Lakers in 7 still?
So here's the interesting part, right? So I sensed a little complacency out of the Wolves in that second game.
Like they were happy that they won their first game and that they did
what they came here to do, and that bothers me a little bit. Right.
Well, they're still a young team, man. I mean, I want to say young because they're not as young as we think, right? They're not as young as we think.
Edwards is young, right? Conley's been around forever. Gobert's been around forever. Randall's been around forever. I mean,
Jaden McDaniels is somewhat
new, but DiVincenzo's been around for a while. I mean, in any case, that's what I sense. And I sense that the Lakers were more lackadaisical in that first game. And then in the second game, so I'm still feeling like the star power of the Lakers will win this one out.
Interesting.
But this is going to be – this is a coin toss, if you ask me. I think we're almost guaranteed to go 7 games. If I were to look at the teams themselves, I think the Wolves are a more complete team. They're a better defensive team. And overall, as a team, I think they're a better offensive team. Of course, the difference is that the Lakers have Luka and LeBron. Yeah, right? So those two players upset the trends, right?
For sure.
And so I think that Luka had a really good game both games. I mean, he had a pretty decent game. Yesterday's game was fantastic. I mean, I think he almost had a triple-double. If not, he had a triple-double. I don't remember if it was either really close or he had one. And so I still feel comfortable in the Lakers going in 7. Yeah, I would say yes, but I do think this is a bit of a coin toss.
Yeah, no, here I'm confident in the Wolves winning this series, bro. I just think that offensively they are more well-rounded when engaged, and that's the main thing, engaged. Right?
Yes, that's the part.
That is. But they're more well-rounded. They're a better defensive team, which in the playoffs is a very important factor. Whereas the Lakers showed some signs of being a decent defensive team. After the trade with Luka, which was kind of surprising because, Anthony Davis was kind of the person who anchored the defense for the Lakers before his departure to the Mavericks. But it was kind of counterintuitive that, bringing someone who's not that defensive minded, and Luka Doncic made that team defensively better. And I think in the end, we're seeing that that was just kind of an anomaly. I think that the Lakers are not as defensive minded as I think the metrics may have shown right after that trade. And I think that we're seeing some holes in this roster right now because frankly, you're only playing freaking your center 9 minutes, 8 minutes a game in Jackson Hayes, right? I mean,
and in my opinion, that may be too much.
Yeah, because he does struggle, but dude, they need. I mean, play Jared Vanderbilt. I mean, that guy plays hard.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he was the difference in game 1 to game 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just play that guy.
Yeah, I agree. I'd play him. Dorian Finney-Smith can be the first. I mean, he hasn't had a good series thus far, but he can be, the first guy off the bench, him and Gabe Vincent. And then Jackson Hayes can come on as needed, And the truth is, if you look at the Wolves, they're not a particularly tall team. And their one big guy is not exactly – you don't have to worry about his offense. You don't have to worry about Gobert scoring offensively. So you can have him, someone of smaller ilk, guard him,
Right.
And everyone else is relatively smaller, in terms of like big men. So I don't really see why Jackson Hayes has to even be a starter.
Yeah, that's going to be their problem. If they get past this series, I mean, the winner of this series is going to be playing the Warriors, right?
Yep. If the Warriors win, or they'll be playing the winner of the Warriors.
I don't want to say that. The winner of the Warriors and the Rockets. But right now, I was the homer for a second there, and I said the Warriors. I don't want to say that. But if they do, if whoever wins here is going to play the winner of the Rockets and the Warriors, and if it's the Rockets, I think that they will take out the Lakers pretty easily.
I tend to agree with you.
If it's the Wolves and the Rockets, then that's a really close series. I would probably say that the Rockets might have a slight edge, but not much. If it's the Warriors against the Lakers, I think that'll be a close matchup, but I think the Warriors would ultimately beat the Lakers.
I
And
agree.
if the Wolves play against the Warriors, I think the Warriors have the Wolves number, bro. Honestly,
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's a mental thing now at that point. So yeah, we'll see, man. But it's interesting how matches play out, right? Because the Rockets, I think, would give both of these teams a problem, whereas the Warriors may not give that much of a problem. But I think
They'll
the
squeak
Warriors
it
would
out,
beat them.
but I think Houston could dominate both of these games.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whereas the Warriors, I think, just because of their veteran savvy and their know-how, and they have high IQ players and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, and you could argue Curry is too when he doesn't turn over the ball, right? Because he's a turnover machine sometimes and frustrating as hell sometimes, but he's awesome as an offensive player, right? But the winner of this series, I don't think is going to get very far. Bottom line,
I'm tending to agree with you, and going back to the Rockets Warriors series, the thing that really killed. There's two teams that I think really kill the Rockets. The Warriors kill them because of Steph's gravity. They can't. They have to throw more than one person, and it throws their defense off.
Yes.
And the other team is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They just have so much talent at every spot that they just really can't keep up. They're probably the one team that's more athletic than they are. You know, maybe not a better rebounding team, but they're more athletic. But outside of those, I think most of the other teams, the Rockets would have had success against, with maybe the exception of the Clippers.
Yes. And that dovetails into our last matchup, man.
Yes.
Right. This is the series of the playoff late so far. This is must-see TV between these two teams, right? And it's kind of unfortunate that they got this bracket because, easily if these guys were in a different bracket, both of these teams probably would have won if they weren't playing against each other, if they were playing somebody else.
I agree.
Right? So, but, the winner of this will have to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the Oklahoma City Thunder, they also got the unlucky draw of having to play the winner of this one because, for being a number one seed, they probably should have had an easier path than this, right? But they're going to be playing one of these two teams. And then you picked the Clippers in 7 or 6. I picked the Clippers in 7. I think our pick is looking pretty good right now because they're a road team and they're a number 5 seed, and they took out the Nuggets in the second game. Whereas the first game, they could have easily won that one. They could easily be up 2-0.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that the Nuggets kept it together and pulled that game out because I thought the Clippers for most of the game had their number.
Yeah. Yep. I know. But by the way, the table is correct on this one. So I just looked at it and it's correct. So we can talk about this one, right? So if you look, and by the way, you can see the totals. I failed to mention that you can see the totals on both sides. But just because you asked the question about what's a good range. Okay, 1.5 to 2 is like ridiculous. It's really good, and you can see Kawhi Leonard reached 1.49 in the second game. In the first game, Nikola Jokic is at 1.47, and in the second game, he got 1.33. Both really good. The thing is that Nikola Jokic costs about $13,200 to play.
Jokic is the whole team. Yeah, Jokic is the whole team. If you look at plus minuses, Jokic's plus minus is insane. When he's off the court, that team's getting smoked. They're just getting smoked. And so they have no bench. Basically, this series is going to go as far as however many minutes Jokic can play. Yep.
And the thing is that their bench, as bleak as it is, man. You got two guys really that really do it, right? It's only Russell Wilson and Peyton Watson right now that are getting the bulk of minutes, right? Because they have to. They don't have a bench. They have a 7-man rotation. The problem with this team is they need one more player to contribute, or they're going to run out of gas, just like the freaking Knicks are going to run out of gas if they make it, right? Whereas on the other side, you have the Clippers who are playing, a 9-man rotation right now, and all of these guys are getting, more than 10 minutes. So, resting their starters.
And Kawhi thinks it's 2015, like that dude. Someone woke him up, bro.
And the thing is that we'll see if this can continue because, this has been a lot on him to be playing this hard, and spurting minutes, and we'll see if he can hold up. If he can, this team is going to be a problem, bro.
If he can hold up, they're a threat to win the whole thing, Eddie.
That's why I have them in the finals in our little bracket, man, because they're a serious problem, man. And you know what's interesting is I didn't even know this, but prior to the matchups, you know, they were talking about, you know, a lot of the analytics that Ivica Zubac is the one center in the NBA who has somewhat contained Nikola Jokic. Doesn't have him have like great games, you know, like you know, he's still gonna have his, but he's not as efficient as he is with any other center. Ivica Zubac makes Nikola Jokic less efficient than he does against other centers that Nikola Jokic plays.
Well, I think one of the main reasons is that Zubac can for the most part play him one-on-one, which limits Jokic's ability to distribute the ball.
Yeah. So
right, he can't push him around. He can't push him around as much.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man, and I agree with you because he's a big dude, right? Now, to me, the Nuggets, Nikola Jokic has to play well. He has to be a superstar like he is, and he doesn't really. What's interesting about him is that he plays at his own pace. He doesn't look like he's putting a lot of effort and energy into it out there because he just kind of goes, you know, through the mode. This is the way he plays, right? But I think, you know, it's a given that guy is going to play at an ultimate level because he is the best player in the NBA. You know, but I think,
and I'll tell you right now, Eddie, if he doesn't win MVP, it's a travesty.
He's not going to win it, bro. It's going to be.
I know he's not. I know
he's not going to win, and he had arguably his best season.
I know. I like Shea, and I think Shea's had a hell of a season. But there's just no way Jokic doesn't deserve it.
I agree, man. Jokic should win it, man. I agree. But what I was going to say, bro, is that Jamal Murray, I think he's the guy. He's the X factor. If he can play and stay out of injury issues, this team is going to be a problem, dude. But the thing is that their bench could be their detriment. I don't think they're going to get past the Clippers, but if they do, they're going to be running out of gas because of their limited bench. Or on the other side with the Clippers, you know, if Kawhi Leonard can stay healthy for the entire series and hover, you know, probably 39 to 40 minutes is a lot for that guy. If they can get him around 35, 34, right? Yep. You know, for the entire series, not have to kind of put all of this on him, you know, because, you know, he's an advanced age. So is James Harden, right? Yep. Norman Powell is up there too. This team is veteran. They are constructed to win now. And in my opinion, they are the biggest threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And after that, you know, I'm only saying this because they're playing against each other, right? Yep. But if they get past the Nuggets, which I think they will, they pose the biggest threat to the Thunder outside of the Warriors, in my opinion.
I agree. And for the Warriors, for whatever reason, the Warriors just had their number. I can't even give you statistics.
You talk about Oklahoma City Thunder's number.
Yes. They've had Oklahoma City Thunder's number. But yes, that to me, if the Clippers win this round, and Oklahoma City is it's like 90% sure they're going to win their first round. That's going to be the matchup to watch. That's going to be the matchup to watch because it's going to be basically, you know, a well-distributed Clippers team versus a well-distributed Oklahoma City Thunder team, with the Clippers having the experience and the Clippers and the Thunder still, you know, figuring things out. Although they're solid, but I would still give that nudge to the Thunder over the Clippers.
Yeah, only because they're deeper and very athletic and probably a better shooting team collectively than the Clippers. The Clippers have more star power though, but they're advanced age star power. So, but anyway, bro, dude, that's pretty much it, man. We did it, man. We covered all 8 series in this. And by the way, I wanted to apologize that a few of these tables were a little off. I'm going to go ahead and correct that for the next time we have this next Wednesday. But what, you know, because we can only show, you know, maybe 2, you know, games at a time. For the next time we go ahead and do this, we're going to cover games 3 and 4, right? You know, and that's all we're going to really focus on, just to look at the metrics, and I'll kind of see if I can pull out, you know, some of the best, you know, points per minute, you know, overall. Kind of do that at the end as another slide to kind of just see the differences. It's kind of fun to kind of see all that, man.
No, I like it. I mean, for those that play fantasy, you know, this is good. These are good numbers, and like I said, you know, there's a lot of metrics you can look at. You know, some people are believers in the plus minus. Some people are believer in some of the other advanced stats. I like the fantasy points because it looks at it holistically, right? We don't have time. We don't have time in this show to talk about the best rebounder and the best assist guy and the best, you know, points guy and how that's impacted.
It's
yeah,
just
we
a
can talk about
collective.
that in passing. Yeah, we can talk about that in
It's
passing.
kind of like a net rating, right?
Exactly,
It's like a net rating of a
for
player's
Exactly.
efficiency. It's kind
Yeah,
of what it is.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
essentially what it is, man.
Exactly.
So, and I think it's a good barometer of how well a player is playing, in the minutes that they play, like what they're doing to contribute to a team winning. So that's the reason why I think it's important to do that and to normalize it. So, but that's our show. We went ahead and just covered all of the 8 series. I think when we come back next week, we're going to do the exact same thing, maybe with a little tweak here and there. If you haven't seen it, we just introduced a short this week. Toine went ahead and did a comparison of Oliver North to Nico Harrison or vice versa. Go ahead and be on the lookout. For those of you who don't know who Oliver North is,
I'm gonna get the Reagan lovers
right?
to.
Yeah, I mean, we're showing our age with that one, but so far it's been highly viewed. It's a good little short. It's funny. Not funny. I just think it's very, very well done, dude. So kudos to you for doing that one, bro. But anyway, so we are the Cisco Kids. I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is Anthony Toine Corral. We're here every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We are brought to you by grumblingsmedia.com. We are an NBA-focused podcast. We do dibble and dabble into other outlets of basketball, such as NCAA as well as WNBA. But for the most part, we're an NBA podcast. You can find us on pretty much any outlet that you can think of. You can think of Pandora, YouTube, Spotify, X, Facebook, you name it. You can go ahead and find us. Just go ahead and make sure that you punch in Grumblings Media, and you won't find us with Cisco Kids, because that's war, right? You'll find that the war song. We were trying to see if we can license that to use it because we love that song. But we use that moniker because we're both from San Francisco. So that's the Cisco Kids. Yeah. Anyway, I'm Eddie Aparicio. This is Anthony Toine.
Real quick, Eddie. Real quick, just a little cross promotion. For those that don't know, we also have a football show. Yes. And the NFL draft is going on. So, if you guys want to tune in,
thank you, bro.
Our football show under Grumblings Media, feel free to check that out.
It's called Blindside Blitz, by the way.
Blindside Blitz.
Give Go ahead and check them out. Yep. Because the draft is this Thursday.
And who knows? Your favorite NFL team did.
And see, who knows, man? We might be on there.
We might be.
We might be, man. Anyway, again, this is Eddie Aparicio. This is Anthony Toine Corral. Have a good rest of the week and enjoy the playoffs.
Yep. Good night, everyone.
Hey, everybody. This is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these 2 boxes.